We are live, everyone, with the NoDQ review number 89 here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel. I'm Aaron Rift. Let me introduce our moderator for today, our final NoDQ review before WrestleMania 36, the show that's too big for one night. Virtue, how's it going?
It's going good, man. Didn't we just do a 90-minute video covering WrestleMania predictions? But here we are yet again doing the NoDQ review number 89, and I am Virtue, being joined by the official A team of NoDQ, myself, Aaron Rift, Jeff Meacham, and of course, once again, Greg Cherry. What's up, everyone? Greg, I'll start with you. What's up, man?
You know, as much, or I guess I should say as little build-up as this WrestleMania has, and the excitement of people because of all the pandemic stuff going on, I'm actually starting to get a little bit excited. I know there won't be fans there. It'll be a completely different era. But you know what? I'm going into it with an open mind. And we kind of have to. Because if we're down on it, self-fulfilling prophecy, I want to see what happens. I want to get excited about it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, and Jeff, are you really super excited for this? I mean, Greg just said that he's starting to get that itch as a wrestling fan because it would be nothing if otherwise, right? We'd have nothing.
Right. On a pure wrestling fan level, it is WrestleMania. It doesn't matter if there's 80,000 people or 10,000 people. It's still going to be WrestleMania. Yes, there are no actual fans that are going to be sitting at ringside or in the stands or whatever, but I'm hoping that the aura of WrestleMania and the build that they've had for these matches, some lackluster, some not, will bolster me. I will say I am much more looking forward to what little celebration we can do for my son's birthday on Saturday than we are I am WrestleMania. That goes without saying. So,
well, there you go. You'll have to figure that out on the fly. Aaron, with nobody being in attendance for this WrestleMania, everybody watching it being at home, I think this will be the most tweeted and social media used WrestleMania of all time. I think there'll be so much because people are looking for a train wreck. People are looking for gems. What do you think? And by the way, how's it going?
It's going good. It's been a busy week, and we have a busy weekend coming up. I am curious to see how social media is implemented into WrestleMania this year because there are no fans. I feel like WWE is going to use Twitter and possibly show more tweets on the screen, and maybe they'll try to show some videos of fans reacting. So, hey, to everyone out there, if you're looking to get on WrestleMania, I would upload some videos and at WWE because they may end up doing that. They may end up searching on Twitter for little 5-second reaction clips and posting them during the show. Just keep that in mind. This might be your opportunity to become famous. So we'll see what happens.
That's a great point, Aaron.
I am intrigued by WrestleMania. Like I said when we did predictions, I'm not all that excited, but I'm intrigued by what could potentially go down this weekend.
And hopefully there's a lot to talk about, whether it's good or bad. Now, I did not put this in the topic, but letting you guys know what we're going to talk about tonight. But it just dawned on me when we did our 90-minute discussion the other night about Mania. We didn't give our thoughts about Rob Gronkowski hosting the show. Former tight end, and Greg, I'm going to start with you because he played for the New England Patriots, and everybody knows you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So what do you think this excitement level that WWE is trying to create with Gronk is going to be, or is it going to be a cheesy letdown?
Gronkowski is going to be as cheesy as he possibly can be. And the fact that, first of all, they turned Mojo babyface for this guy, I think is a bad idea and shows how out of touch the McMahons are because I don't think it's just a Pittsburgh thing. I think the Patriots outside of New England are universally hated. So the best idea would have been to bring him in as a heel, but of course the McMahons are Patriots fans, so there you go. So they think he's he's the greatest tight end of all time. Whatever. Fact of the matter is, I'm not excited for Gronkowski. I could care less, obviously. I thought Ben Roethlisberger was a better host of Raw, personally, than Gronk is going to be for WrestleMania.
All right. Good point. Aaron, I'm going to go to you because I know you're not the big sports guy, so you're probably just going to go, But, any thoughts? Are you looking forward to this potential train wreck?
Well, I think Greg at least cares a little bit, which is good because he said he could care less, which means he has at least a small degree of caring, which means I guess I care a little bit. I think that if he does something physical, it might make WrestleMania a more interesting show. Hey, maybe he'll somehow end up in the Universal title match and he'll beat Bill Goldberg and become the new champion, and WWE will get their Sports Center moment. I mean, who knows? That
Good night,
would
everybody.
be something else if that happened. But yeah, I mean, I'll give it time and see what he does. There was a comment in the chat room about him and the Masked Singer, and I actually did watch it last night with Caitlin. She watches it all the time, so I just turned it on. First time I've ever watched it, and they referenced not only Gronk and WWE, but they referenced John Cena as well, and Dr. Ken was there talking about how John Cena beat him up. That was one of the worst guest host spots of all time, by the way, Jeremy Piven and Dr. Ken, but that's a whole other topic. Again, I'm intrigued by it. Will it be a train wreck? Could very well be the case, but I'm curious to see what they do with him.
Well, thank you, Aaron. And I want to see your reactions on Gronk if he brings the house down. Jeff, how can they make this good? Usually when you get a host of Mania in the big stadium, they do like one promo and that's it. Maybe they come out one more time. They hardly use a host. So are we going to get Gronk overexposed here?
Well, you remember when The Rock came back to host 9 years ago, he did the big thing at the beginning, the big thing at the end with the WWE Championship match, but he was kind of scattered throughout the show too. He did the segment with Mae Young and the promo with Steve, and it was a different dynamic than we've seen in hosts subsequently. I mean, Hulk was out there once and made the big verbal error, and then that was it. And he lives with that to this day. But you've got other hosts that have done different things. Alexa was on throughout the show because Alexa Bliss, and people want to see what the hell is that noise. People want to see Alexa Bliss. So with Gronk, like you said, the McMahons are Patriots fans. They like Gronk. Mojo is friends with Gronk. So I think we're going to see a lot more of him than the non-Gronkowski fans want to see. But I think that he'll be used enough where I guess it'll make it, not seem like it's so non-entertaining, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It'll seem more like a show than we're thinking it's going to be because it's going to be such a tight little operation, I guess.
Well, I think they're clearly putting him on there because they're showing content on ESPN right now, right? I mean, obviously these sports channels are starving for anything physical, whether it's staged or not. There's a deal in place for WWE to put more shows on FS1, I believe, or Fox. I mean, this is kind of unprecedented because the WWE has their network, right? And they're trying to sell. They're actually giving that away just to try to keep people subscribed past the free trial. So, what I want to know everybody's thoughts here: is this Fox thing going to work out? And who in their right mind would pay $60 for WrestleMania? It's 2 nights for pay-per-view. They would have to be completely oblivious to the WWE network. So I don't understand why WWE's offering $60 for this pay-per-view when they should just be pushing the network. So Jeff, I'll come right back to you. This is to me a cluster because you have the network. It's free right now. The long-term subscribers don't get anything for free. $60 today? No way.
No, in the environment where people are having to work from home, having their hours reduced, having their pay reduced as a result of it, they're not going to shell out $60 for a 2-day pay-per-view. And for the hardcore wrestling fans or the niche fans, as Virtue likes to say all the time, New Japan offered the Tokyo Dome shows for under $40, I believe it was, in January for 2 nights. So we're not going to pay $60 for WrestleMania in a performance center. Now, if it was a stadium show and there was no network, maybe. But the fact of the matter is, if you weren't subscribed to New Japan World on January 4th, you could pay, I think we paid like $29.95, maybe a little bit less, for both nights of the Tokyo Dome and the day after that, the second show for Liger's retirement. So you got 3 nights of shows for like under $30. For a hardcore wrestling fan, that's a pretty big deal in today's day and age. So for WWE to even have the audacity to dare to charge $60 for WrestleMania is freaking ridiculous, and it's going to blow up in their face if they think they're going to make money off it.
Now, what do you think about them using Fox and putting more content on there?
I am all about brand's awareness and all about them getting the brand. I mean, Lord knows, no one knows better than me right now with what I'm having to do with my podcast and how important brand awareness is. And for all that WWE has tried to, keep themselves contained, and as far as we are sports entertainment, but we don't do sports. We do entertainment only. They realize that a lot of their audience is sports fans like me, where they want to not just watch football or not just watch hockey. They want to watch wrestling. So they're appealing to Fox. They're appealing to Disney, ABC for the ESPN content. They're reaching out because they realize their back's up against the wall without new content being produced on a weekly basis.
Now, Aaron, do you think that they're allowing this? They're offering it on pay-per-view for $60 just to make people think, well, that WWE Network's a pretty good deal. We get it for free right now. You think it's a psychological, or are there people that can't get the network?
Well, apparently there are people that don't have the technology, but if that's the case, how can they download FS1's app and buy it on Fight TV? Fight TV is carrying WrestleMania. Now, there is a rumor that WWE might be trying to go back to the old model and charge people, at least for the major shows like WrestleMania. That's been rumored for a while. And I think they should have done that in the first place. It's going to be a tough sell now to try and get people to spend that kind of money when they've been used to paying $9.99. And to answer Christopher's question, yes, there is free content on the network right now, but that does not include WrestleMania. So you have to be a subscriber or you have to get the free trial in order to get WrestleMania. And let me read these super chats real quick. $2 from Psycho Jet Black, first one of the evening. He says, Goldberg versus Hulk Hogan for WrestleMania 36 in a ladder match. Imagine that. Imagine if Hulk Hogan was the opponent for Goldberg and somehow won the world title. That would be the damnedest thing of all time. And that's really saying something. And I'm surprised that Psycho Jet Black did not take a shot at EC3.
If it wasn't a ladder match, I'm all about that. I'd rather have Hogan be the champion than Goldberg.
Well, there you go. And Andrew Watson with a $2 super chat. Uh-oh. Well, Greg, you're up next here, so maybe you could answer him here. He says, I would destroy in Wrestling Trivia Challenge. We've heard that before. All right, so, yeah, I think this could all be part of WWE's plan to have WrestleMania go back to being on traditional pay-per-view. Anyways, Greg, your thoughts on that trivia comment and on this current situation with WrestleMania being $60?
You know, I've been champion for 2 years, so do you think I'm afraid of anybody in Wrestling Trivia Challenge? I don't think so. I'm defending my other championship tonight. Yes, I'm Cherry Two Bells as far as Wrestling Trivia goes. But bring it on. Hey, you know what? Nobody else has stepped up in availability, so talk to Jeff, get it scheduled, bring it on. I'm not scared of anybody.
Instagram.com/Jeff Meacham. If you email me and you give me an availability for when you're available, I will put you in queue. And I told everybody after WrestleMania, shit's on. So let's do this.
But anyway, what was your question about the other thing? Because I had to get my trip.
Well, it's like, okay, the network's $9.99, but yet they're offering WrestleMania for $60 on pay-per-view. And then, of course, the extra content they're going to be putting on Fox.
So there might be wrestling fans out there that are kind of, you know, not full-time fans or whatever, and they don't pay for the network. But since it's WrestleMania, they might just like shell out the money, not even think about the network. It's like, oh, $60 for one pay-per-view, and I don't have to watch the rest of the year. That's fine. There might still be people out there like it, or there might be people that are just stupid and waste their money. You know, obviously none of us are going to be paying $60 for it because we got the network. And I think it's foolish of them to revert to the old model when we've been used to for, the last 6 years, the network's schedule, asking us to pay more for the major pay-per-views, while understandable, is really a slap in the face to your fan base. If anything, raise the network price like $1 or $2 for the subscribers. Don't make us pay $50-$60 for one event when we can get that for like 6 months of the network. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we'll have to see how that goes going forward, how they're going to do that. Because, you know, Netflix, they've raised their prices before and got a lot of people to drop. But, you know, in the end, whatever they decided to do, they still have billions of dollars that they make every year. So it's crazy. Aaron, did you have something before we move on?
Oh, no, just Calvin Bowman asked about when wrestling will get back to normal, when the world gets back to normal, hopefully
Hey, the
sooner
whole
than
world's
later.
nuts.
I mean, we don't know. There's no real solid answer. I think we're all optimistic that maybe June, but who knows at this point? Whenever the curve flattens and the virus numbers go down, which could be a couple months, could be 6 months, could be a year, who knows at this point?
Put it this way out there. Those of us that are parents are looking at a situation where we're going to have our children do distance learning until at least the fall semester, if not further. So wrestling's kind of a low priority when it comes to, so unfortunately.
Well, let's go on this topic right here. And then, Greg, I'll start with you on this one. Should WWE air more or older matches for NXT? So you know how what they're doing with NXT right now. Yeah. They're not even doing the takeover. Supposedly they're going to record these matches for takeover and air them on the weekly Wednesday night shows going forward whenever they do this. But they have a lot of great classic matches that maybe people that didn't watch NXT several years ago haven't seen. I know you'll mention Bayley versus Sasha. There was a Sami Zayn versus Nakamura match. Plenty of other. Do you think they should feature some of those classic NXTs to kill some of this NXT TV time, which they might have to do, which we'll talk about in a later topic, if they do stop production shortly after WrestleMania? What's your thoughts on airing for NXT, especially those classic matches?
I mean, I think that's a good idea. If you want to bring in an audience to realize what NXT is built into, then bring them back to what really made the show. And NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, you mentioned Sasha and Bayley, that entire show basically made NXT because people had talked a little bit about NXT before, but that particular show, I think, solidified what NXT was because it was the talk of the town forever. It still has been 5 years later because of how solid that show was. And quite frankly, I think it's a good idea. Air matches like Sasha and Bayley at TakeOver Brooklyn. Air the Zayn and Nakamura match from TakeOver Dallas. Numerous other TakeOver matches, even previous NXT TV shows. I mean, you have to air something in that time slot if you can't air new content. And you can't just do like the social distancing stuff for wrestling. I mean, you can have promos and whatnot, but that'll only carry you so far because there's no payoff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So airing past matches is fine, but how long will that last you?
But at least some of the classics. So good point there, Aaron. What do you think here in this situation? Because NXT has some. I mean, they got tons of matches, right? They got some classics, and I think that instead of drawing things out like they've been doing, pop in a classic match before. I don't know. Maybe it'll help the guys that are on the main roster that were in those gals that were in those classic matches. What do you think? And then pass it to Jeff because I got to put my mic on mute for a second because I have to take this phone call. Yes, we're live, people. But Aaron, take it over. I'll be right back. Cool?
All right. Well, I feel like they might have to do that at this point because they might not be able to tape shows for the next month or 2 months. I think that's a logical decision. I think ideally you would want to keep doing the first run programming as long as possible. I know the numbers are going down right now, but there's not a whole lot WWE can do about that right now, and AEW's numbers are going down. It's just an unfortunate time for everybody. The one advantage WWE does have over AEW, though, is that WWE has this huge library with NXT. AEW might end up having to do the same thing with their limited library. They do have some pay-per-views. They can air all-out matches and Revolution matches. They have a handful of pay-per-views, but not nearly as much as WWE. WWE can rely on that if they need to. Everything all good, Virtual? I guess he's still putting in his microphone. So, yeah, I've pretty much said all I wanted to say about NXT. We did have a super chat from Psycho Jet Black saying, who should replace Roman Reigns against Goldberg at WrestleMania? We did talk about this during the predictions, and I'm fine with Braun Strowman. I really don't care at this point. Not Hogan, But Jeff, if you have anything else to say about NXT and then that super chat, go for it.
I, for one, see, to quote my shirt, here's the thing. By the way, I found out today you can get Mania shirts on NoDQ's page too, apparently. I didn't know that. Now I do. I would honestly go back and air the tournament matches from the first NXT Championship tournament when they crowned Seth Rollins, because I've not seen those straight through. I'm only just now going back into the archives of NXT when Dusty first was GM and they were booking the first season as no longer a competition show. It was an actual developmental brand. So I'd like to see the old stuff. You guys mentioned, the classic stuff. I'd like to see the stuff that wouldn't be considered so classic, but the original tournaments to crown the champion. I'd love to see those.
Oh, and they could say, hey, you can find this and other great content on the WWE Network. Like, plug it, push it,
There you go, exactly.
Well, all right, so they still recorded matches. The way they're doing their live shows, it's a lot hit and miss. That not very much match quality content. AEW's outshining them when it comes to that. But should both WWE and AEW have been recording anything at all when this pandemic got super serious, or should they have just shut it down? Because I see a lot of people on the internet that have said, why are you even still doing anything? Even though, are you screening properly? All it takes is one person on the production crew to have this virus and it could spread. So should these two companies be questioned for even doing it? Like, we know news is still reporting to work and doing the news. Nurses and doctors still have to work, right? People on the front lines. Aaron, what do you think with these two companies still trying to squeeze content out since this became a big deal in the United States?
I think both companies are trying to ride out the storm, and it's a really tough call. This situation changes on a daily basis, and I think maybe in mid-March when things were getting really bad, there was a thought process that, hey, we can just do a couple of shows. Maybe by April, things will be back to normal. Maybe WWE felt there was a small chance they could have a crowd at the Performance Center or do an arena show, rebook somewhere else. I'm sure there were all these different options that were being discussed, and of course, those options went away as the situation got more serious. The question is now, do they keep continuing, or do they try to just take some time off and ride out the storm? What do they do at this point? There's real no solid answer. Yes, in hindsight, they probably should have just shut everything down, postponed WrestleMania, but who knows when they can do shows again. I did bring up the idea that maybe they could do their first show back, have that be WrestleMania, whatever arena they can book whenever the time is that the restrictions are lifted. But who knows if people want to show up in time. There's so many factors, and it's hard to say what the right call is. It's easy for us to say when we're not the decision makers. But for Vince and the people in WWE, it's a really tough call. And when the information changes on a daily basis, what's the right call? Things could change tomorrow for better, for worse, you don't know. So, yeah, I do not envy anybody in WWE or AEW for that matter when it comes to making these decisions.
Now, Greg, is this considered essential? I mean, we know we keep hearing we need to entertain the people at home in quarantine and lockdown. But what if, like, some of these wrestlers got the virus recording these shows, even though they're not in front of, big public gatherings? Like that's just what the naysayers for this whole thing saying they should have shut it down a couple of weeks ago. That is a good point. What do you think with that?
I mean, nobody really knows what's going on. I mean, this is something that none of us have ever had to deal with in our life. Like, this is something that's basically shut the entire world down. I'd be lying if I said that, oh yeah, we know how to deal with this, but nobody knows what to do because this is a completely new situation. As far as the wrestlers potentially being infected, there were rumors that Graves and Carmella both had it. And they're about an hour and a half away from me. So, and our entire state's locked down, so they can't go anywhere. It's one of those tough situations that we don't know what to do. And WWE, the world needs something to give them hope. And as strange as it may seem, seeing WrestleMania go on, even without the fans, for like the purpose of being entertained and having the opportunity to sit at home and watch them perform, I'm okay with that. There are a lot of people who might be like, oh, no, they should shut everything down. It's like, you don't know how to deal with this either, so shut up.
Right.
They're trying their hardest to give us something to make the world seem at least half normal, even for a span of 7 hours over 2 days.
Right.
So give them credit for that at least. And I've said that on my live streams too.
And that's WWE's attitude. They're wanting to keep the show going and try and give hope to people and entertain people during these tough times. And I'm sure Triple H, Stephanie, Vince, they all feel like this is the right thing to do. We got to keep going. We got to give people hope that things will go back to normal and give them some escape from the reality of the situation. The question is, though, will they do an off season? Will they take a month or two off after WrestleMania? You know, I think Vince was probably very stubborn about wanting to do WrestleMania and not postponing it. But after that, where does WWE go from here? Do they actually shut it down for a bit? Jeff, what do you think?
If I'm sitting in that chair in Stamford, I am shutting down after Sunday. I've got Monday filmed. I potentially have Friday filmed if they have next Friday show filmed. I would have found a way to be like, you know what? We need to A, be responsible, B, be safe, C, realize that we're not going to lose a whole lot of money that we weren't going to lose anyway on ticket sales and ratings. And I'll tell you why. Because people have been pointing out in the chat room the last 10 minutes we've been talking, and you mentioned it earlier, Aaron, they have the world's largest wrestling library of all time. They've got everything you'd want to see except, like New Japan, stuff like that. But they've got everybody in their archives at some point or other. Everybody that's passed through this business, for the most part, has passed through those pearly gates of WWE, if you will. So there is a way to put content on USA, Fox, and the network. You know what? Here you go. Off season, week 1, whatever. So
and you know what they could do? They could produce some new documentary style episodes for Raw and SmackDown where they can interview people and show matches, produce brand new documentaries for some of their talents that will be airing for
help
the very
get
first
them over.
time. And it's first run programming technically with the footage being shown, but the interviews will be new, and that way people are watching something technically for the first time. It's a whole new package.
I mean, people are so quick to, criticize, I mean, this is a completely different scenario. Totally different. I'm not saying it's not. Please don't, at Jeff Meacham, sorry, _ Jeff Meacham. But the minute the news about Chris Benoit broke, the first instinct was we need to get the talent out of the ring and put something on USA. Benoit, the documentary. Boom, there it is right there. Tribute to Chris, celebrate Chris, whatever. They didn't know, of course, what was going on at the time. So here you go, celebrate Chris. They've got, how many talents on this roster that they can, people that have been there for a long time even, where they can document, make documentaries. You make a good point, Aaron. Not to toot Hulk's horn, because I love Hulk personally, but a lot has gone down in the last 10 years of Hulk Hogan's life that they've not documented on any capacity on the network. So they can make a serious run just with that video by itself. So there is content to be produced, and there's plenty of content in the can they can put forth to keep the flow of television traffic going for a month,
right,
or 2 or 3 or whatever.
Now, what's the structure of their TV contracts? AEW with TNT and, of course, WWE. Does this content have to be live? Is that putting the pressure on them and they just don't know what else to do?
Well, I think that the networks would expect first-run content. I don't think anybody was really anticipating this situation, but, I mean, under the circumstances, I think that USA Network and AEW and TNT and all these organizations would have to agree that at some point we got to consider just stepping back for a while. Yes, money will be lost, but, I mean, it would look bad for TNT and USA if they were forcing WWE and AEW to continue running first-run programming and putting people at risk potentially. And yeah, if somebody gets sick with this, like, to me, that will shut everything down if somebody from WWE, if it comes out they have coronavirus and somebody who performed at WrestleMania has it, I would think that has to be it. WWE would have to shut down and do their off season until it's safe to come back. So maybe the better idea is to just be on the safe side and say, hey, we're going to take a couple months off. We're going to produce some documentaries and wait and see what happens and start with new storylines for the future, start planning. You know, with WrestleMania, I think part of the concern too was WWE had all this time invested in these storylines, and they didn't want to put those storylines on ice until whenever the time was to do WrestleMania. So they decided, well, let's just get this out of the way, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do later. So there's no way to predict what's going to happen next. Things change on a daily basis. It's definitely been a very surreal time, that's for sure.
So if they have an off season and take a break after Mania, whether it's a month, however long, and they don't, have the talent travel to do matches, physical contact, Greg, what do you think about this? Remember they used to have a show called Spotlight with Gorilla Monsoon. They had like the round table, and they would talk, and then they would go to matches that were pre-recorded. I know there were a lot of jobber matches, or they'd go back to a Saturday night main event. And back then there wasn't as much TV content. So couldn't they do something like that? Because you can probably get a few of the talker type people in Stamford recording live, talking as the show is airing, and then cut away to old footage. Or do you have another idea how they could get by with Raws and SmackDowns or NXTs if they do technically shut down the wrestlers from traveling and working?
Well, the point I was going to bring up while Aaron was talking about that, I know Aaron's not a sports guy, but think about Major League Baseball right now. The season should have started already. And so what exactly is ESPN and FS1 and all the other networks that show baseball? What are they airing right now? Are they airing classic baseball games? Are they airing not that ESPN has any shortage of footage to air, but what exactly could they be airing during this time? Because they can't show anything new. There can't be any baseball games going on right now. So WWE is in the same, AEW too, they're in the same boat. What exactly can they do? They shouldn't be held for like a breach of contract or anything, because this is, again, something that is unprecedented to this world. They could do interview segments like that, like you mentioned, to get the talent over. And maybe that'll help them. Like do unscripted shows. You don't need all the writers there. Let the wrestlers get themselves over, and hopefully that'll be good whenever they resume business. But they're very limited in their options too, because you can only run so much past footage before it's like, okay, we're not even going to watch until they come back. It's like you need something to like hold on to the fans there, because they're not running other pay-per-views other than this. They're pretty much shut down with new shows after Mania and the week after.
Well, to counter what you just said, Greg, as far as showing old stuff without any new footage, they have been, for the last couple weeks, I guess, on the network, been uploading little 4 to 5 hour blocks of Edge's best this and Lesnar's most destructive that and Triple H. That would be something I'd be intrigued by if Edge was on the commentary, introducing the videos and then, commentating along with fill in the blank here, giving new insights. But they're basically just, talking head, rehash. It's like, no.
Well, the difference you mentioned there is the WWE network. They can air whatever the hell they want. I'm talking about like the USA and Fox stuff. It's like they can't rehash the old stuff without people tuning out of that. Because people will still watch the WWE network, but the USA and Fox stuff, they'll be like, if I wanted to watch this stuff, I just watch the network. So there's no reason to tune into USA or Fox.
Well, but to put with what Virtue and Aaron were talking about, if they record these documentaries and have these first run brand new content documentaries recorded, then they can have, the matches interspliced in. That way it's old stuff, but you're having new insights. So there is a way to do this as long as they don't overproduce themselves, I guess.
And WWE has a history of overproducing.
Yes.
Yeah, they got to figure out something, or, does Fox just put something else on in its place? And how does that affect those TV contracts? Do they just go into the dormancy and then get renewed once the live content starts again? just a bunch. It's a tricky scenario, you know.
Well, yeah. You mentioned USA. Not to completely out myself as a weirdo here, but the most of the daytime shows on CBS, NBC, and they aren't taping right now. They're not taping live. They're having either people in the studio, as far as like the talk shows, or if it's soap opera, they're not on set at all. So if NBC can't hold the cast of Days of Our Lives responsible for lack of content, then they shouldn't be able to hold WWE responsible for the same thing. So I don't think it's NBC or Fox or whoever being the assholes, if you will. I think it's Vince just being stubborn as a damn mule, like he's always been.
Holds the world in the palm of his hands, like he did with the fate of WCW.
Yes. And
he wants to beat coronavirus. There is no sick, so the show must go on. That's Vince McMahon.
Somebody in the chat room joked, well, somebody just go sneeze on him and make him cancel. It's haha, it's funny, but yeah, it's gonna take something like that. It's gonna take someone in his roster getting a confirmed case to make him go, oh, shit.
So because Vince McMahon is the way he is, there's a couple things, like Roman Reigns said, I'm not doing it. He did not even record his match. Now, they haven't even pulled the advertisement yet. So I want to know everybody's thoughts on that, which, maybe they're just waiting for SmackDown on Friday. But what's the fate of Roman Reigns? Is he high enough up on the totem pole? Vince has pushed him and pushed him and pushed him that this won't piss Vince off by him not wanting to perform. Because remember, Vince says there is no sick. Now, I'm not saying that McMahon doesn't have some type of compassionate human side. So, Greg, what do you think here with Roman? Like, is it going to hurt him in Vince's eyes going forward? Or is Vince McMahon just bigger than a disease, or a virus? It's crazy. What do you think?
I can't imagine that Vince would hold it against Roman. I mean, Roman had to leave to do his cancer treatments, and he's more susceptible to sickness than maybe anybody else on the roster. So being the position that Roman's in, I can't, and the moneymaker that Vince sees Roman as, you can't really hold that against Roman at all. And it wouldn't be fair to. In that same vein, maybe it's also Vince's fault, and this might be unrelated, that he hasn't created more big stars to take the place of Roman. And we've talked about that for many, many years, who's going to replace Cena. A lot of people thought was going to be Roman, and he did for a little bit. And the cancer threw everybody off. It's like, okay, what's our backup plan? They didn't really have one. Roman was the guy. It's different in this era because at least Attitude Era, you had Rock and Stone Cold. And you had a few others like Mankind, Undertaker. You had multiple people in your main event scene. And now you're relying on like one or two people to carry your company.
And one of them's a part-timer.
Well, multiple of them. Both champions are part-timers at the moment. So.
Yeah. Well, it's hard for me to still count Goldberg. Like, I feel like it's surreal, and he's not even the Universal Champion, and it never happened. But, no, good points. Aaron, what do you think about this? Like, Vince holds grudges, and other people worked, even though they didn't have the leukemia, their immune system's not compromised. I question if this will hurt Roman going forward when he does come back, and maybe Vince will just kind of push him back down to where he had been since he's returned from leukemia, just because he didn't work through it, damn it. I mean, Vince just is all business. I don't know how much compassion the guy really has.
Well, I think Psycho Jet Black actually makes an interesting point here. He sent in his $2 super chat. He says, will The Miz be buried because Roman left WrestleMania? So the rumor is that The Miz showed up and was sick, and the Usos found out about this and told Roman, and that's when Roman was like, I'm done, I'm not doing this, because Roman had shown up for the contract signing and the confrontation with Goldberg. WWE probably should have just pulled Roman from the get-go as soon as the Empty Arena shows started. However, like I said earlier, this was a day-to-day situation, and WWE thought maybe we can get through this, and maybe if we just follow the restrictions, everything will be okay. So again, it's a tough call to make. I don't think WWE will punish Roman Reigns, and if they did, if Vince had some kind of resentment, I feel like it would be very subtle. But I think if anybody's going to be punished from this, it would be
The Miz.
Miz if that rumor is true. But then again, my question is, WWE has this policy where everyone has to have their temperature taken. If you're over 100.4, you're not allowed in the building. So how would the Miz be able to get into the building and then it's determined that he's sick? That's what I'm wondering what the deal is with that. Jeff, go ahead.
If you don't know you're sick and you have 100.4 fever, you need to go to a psych ward, not a goddamn clinic. Let me point that out right now. Because 100.4 is pretty damn hot, okay? That's crazy, number one. Number two, I don't know if Mike was actually sick or if he made the decision that, you know what, I got a newborn at home. I'm good. Bye, y'all. Because he's got, a wife and, a little one and then a little one at home. So does he want to risk going, from LA to Florida back and forth every week? I pointed this out when I first came back to review with you guys a couple weeks ago. I wouldn't want to be traveling if I was these guys, going on these planes and going cross country. I would not even want to bother with it. So, and they don't. So whether Miz is actually sick, we're trusting the word of people that we think are on the inside. Let's keep that in mind. If Miz was sick and he got through the screening, then I don't think he should be buried for it. Again, if he didn't know he was sick and he had that temperature, then he should be buried for his stupidity. But for causing Roman to leave, no, Roman made a choice and he made the right choice.
I almost feel like a lot of the workers, the wrestlers, just didn't want to do this, wanted it to be postponed, and like a small rebellion started. Like, hey, there's no union in wrestling like there should be, and they almost said, hey, you know what? If we say we aren't going to do this, maybe everyone else will come in, and there just won't be any tapings, and McMahon will have to cancel it. But I don't know. I mean, we'll never know, right? Because this is all just speculation. None of us were there. We just know Roman's not going to be wrestling.
We've all been fans long enough, and we talked about this. I think it was last week. Aaron brought this up. The night after Montreal, you had half the roster saying, "I'm not going to Raw tomorrow. I'm not going to work." 2 people didn't show up.
Yeah.
Rick Rude immediately went to WCW, and Mick Foley sat the night out. Other than that, everybody else tucked tail and went and kissed the ring the next day. Okay, so. They're not gonna, yes, this is a different situation, but they still realize that if they don't, hail Caesar, they're going to get their head lopped off in the lion's den. So that's, it's very scary and it's a very unforeseen situation, and they don't know what the hell to do with themselves right now. I don't blame them. I'm at a loss too.
Great segue. You said Hail Caesar. So I'm thinking Jake the Snake Roberts' recent promos, how he refers to Cody Rhodes. We're going to have a brand new title belt coming up in the future. I believe it's the TNT Championship, which is the equivalent of a television championship. Probably means it'll be defended every AEW Dynamite. There's an 8-man bracket tournament for this. I kind of feel how it's going to go when I look at the 2 sides of the brackets. So I want everybody's thoughts on this. We've been clamoring for WWE to shrink titles, combine titles. Maybe if you're going to have a title defended all the time, instead of these stupid non-title matches where sometimes the champion loses, put a TV title out there and have somebody defend it every episode. I like this. Greg, what's your thoughts? I don't know how much you've followed AEW, but there's the TV title, more or less, is coming back. And I don't know if you looked at the brackets. Who do you think should be the inaugural champion?
Well, I did take a look at the brackets. I went on AEW's Instagram, checked out the brackets when I saw this was going to be a topic, and it looks like it's a solid card. Actually, the fact that Cody and Shawn Spears is in the first round was a little surprising to me, because I figured, they'd probably make it semis, if not the whole way through. If I had to make a guess of what the finals were going to be, I would say Cody versus Lance Archer. And I would say that to continue a storyline, MJF would cost Cody the championship, and Lance Archer would become the first ever TNT champion. That's probably how I would book it, but maybe that's just me.
The way they're making Lance Archer look with Jake, psychological, tossing around Marco Stunt, fantastic television, by the way. That's the role Marco Stunt can serve in pro wrestling, although I can't believe he got some offense in. To me, it has to be Lance Archer winning this. Like, I don't know how. I mean, unless they completely screw him or he just beats someone up so bad they disqualify him and advance the other guy. But Jeff Meacham, what do you think here? You figure Cody would be the guy to win this but I don't know, man. It's kind of a cool concept, and the wrestling fans who love their matches are going to probably get a title match every week once things are back to normal. Thoughts on this, especially with you being an NWA guy? I know belts mean a lot.
Oh, especially the TV championship. Holy crap. I mean, this is huge.
Yeah.
This is huge. Yeah. So I'm torn between Archer and Cody. And the reason is because, like I said, Archer has just been, he looked like a damn stud last night. He kicked serious ass last night on TNT. He looked great. But again, there's the thing of Cody where he is legally unable to challenge for the world championship. How do you keep Cody in the mix of the championship scene? Put the TV belt, put the TNT belt on him. There you go. So I'm torn between those two. I think that will be the finals. I like the scenario of MJF screwing Cody again, but only if that leads to a situation where Cody's like, all right, Dick, look, this is it. If I beat you this time, I get my world title opportunity back. If you win, you take yourself off TV or do something completely batshit crazy. But that's if MJF costs him. I personally would like the idea of Cody winning the championship and then MJF beating him for the title later, because that'll make MJF the guy if he beats Cody for a title.
Yeah, no, a good point. Aaron, finally they're bringing another title in the mix. I know in WWE we have too many titles, and we've been talking about AEW maybe needing one more, and here we go. So thoughts on that? Elaborate, because you probably already talked about that on your show last night.
Yeah, I did talk about it briefly. I'm just wondering what happens probably when the time comes that AEW is no longer on TNT. Will they have to rename the title? Like, how does that work? That's interesting that they're basically married to TNT now.
Where would they go? Why would they leave? They got a great deal with him, don't they?
Right, but nothing lasts forever, as they say. So when that day comes, which I would think it's not going to be forever, what do you do with the title? Do you just get rid of it, or do you rename it?
Rename it. Why not?
I guess. Yeah,
I think the concept which you said that it is a TV championship is very much the case. So if they were to be forced off the Turner networks, it could very easily be rebranded to a TV championship name. That way, it would go on, film the network here.
Right, they could just change it to the TV title if they wanted to.
Right.
As far as who I think should be the first champion, I get the logic in Cody establishing the title, but man, Lance Archer should not be losing anytime soon. I think that
right.
I hope AEW's plan all along has been to go with him as the first champion, because if not, I feel like AEW might end up booking themselves into a corner. But we could also see Archer get DQ'd. I'd have to look at the brackets again to see who could be another opponent for Cody. But maybe Archer, I did mention this on my stream, maybe Archer could be DQ'd like The Undertaker did in 1990 at Survivor Series to get himself out of the tournament, and then Cody faces somebody else. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a Cody versus Lance final, but like I mentioned on the stream, Young Bucks were thought of to be the favorites for the tag title tournament, and they got eliminated. So anything's possible here. It might not be Cody in the final. Maybe it'll be Darby Allin and Lance Archer in the final, and then Lance Archer wins the title, beating Darby.
Well, Dustin, so it's in the left side, it's going to be Spears and Cody facing the winner of Guevara and Darby Allin. And then on the right side, it's Dustin versus Kip Sabian versus the winner of Colt Cabana and Archer. So to me, it does point to Cody versus Archer. But if they did a thing where Archer maybe got disqualified, what about another Dustin and Cody match?
Ooh, that would be interesting. Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, for dad,
right?
I feel like
Dusty was a prolific TV champion, so why not?
I feel like they wouldn't do that again. Despite the match that they had at Double or Nothing, if Dustin Rhodes made the finals, I feel like they probably put, the Spanish God as his opponent. So just to keep building up the inner circle, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
But
no
there you
Brody
have it.
Lee.
I mean, it's interesting. I like this concept, and we got to wait now because of the coronavirus and everything's on hold. But
Now-
we'll see.
Now, Virtue, TR Sega sent in a 500, whatever it is, super chat. Says WWE often portrays a narrative of opportunity and putting smiles on people's faces, etc. Are they a land of politics instead? If yes, is that necessarily wrong? I would say yes. WWE is all about politics, and it's just the lay of the land. It's the way things are, and yeah, it kind of sucks, but WWE is a business, and in business, you got to play politics. So I don't know
Well,
if anybody
McMahon's
else...
trying to get some saving grace out of this. He doesn't want a sickness to stop his company. I mean, we've heard Russo, Cornette, Jim Ross. They've all said how Vince McMahon is. We know that's why we know this. If we've never been in personal quarters with Vince, so could this draw the most viewed? I don't know how they can tally the numbers based on the pay-per-views, the network watches, but could this be the most viewed from home WrestleMania of all time? I don't know what currently is. Obviously, it was different back then with buy rates versus how many people watched on the network the last couple, several years. But I mean, is WWE looking to position a figure out of this where they could say WrestleMania 36 was the most watched of all time and can give us some million, like 5 million, 6 million people figure of people that technically watched it at home? I don't know. I just feel like Vince is trying to position that as the big historical thing for this.
Right. Now, we do have another $5 super chat from Jordan Smith. He says, who will be the Holy Alliance at WrestleMania? Will this finally be Undertaker's last Mania match? Thank you for the super chat, Jordan. We did talk about this during the predictions video, but real quick, I'll just say, Big Show, I could see being in there. Maybe a couple of other guys, maybe Mick Foley, a few surprise appearances. And no, I do not think it's going to be Undertaker's last match. I think he will at least wrestle until Survivor Series, which is his 30-year anniversary. November 22nd, which is my birthday, 2020 will be the 30-year anniversary since his debut. To me, that's the right place for him to wrap up his career. Jeff?
And then retire into the Hall of Fame 30 years to the day that the streak started almost. Because WrestleMania was on the 28th of March this coming year, and it was on the 24th of 91. So
perfect. I didn't even think about that, Jeff. Good job. That's perfect idea. End it.
Selfishly want to see that.
Yeah, end at Survivor Series, go into the Hall of Fame, 30-year anniversary of the streak starting. Perfect. You nailed it, Jeff.
We'll see. I don't know who it could be. I mean, watch it be nobody. Watch there be nobody, and it's just literally a one-on-one match, and that's it. I still think maybe Michelle McCool.
The club's going to get involved.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I was thinking McCool because I don't know if she's still in wrestling shape or not. She's got to work out, right? I'd like seeing her give age the Styles Clash.
Yes, I was just thinking that. Like, have her come in. That would be hilarious. I would actually pop for that. I know some people would get pissed. All the wrestling purists would be fuming with anger if that happened. But I would laugh my ass off if that happened.
And then like a higher power, takes the hood off and it's her.
It was me, AJ. It was me all. WWE could be so creative with this. I hope they came up with something good for it. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, Undertaker will retire after a career-ending injury. I don't think he's going to have a career-ending injury. I think that, this match they're doing for WrestleMania will be, just a brawl with graveyard props, and I doubt Undertaker will get hurt in that. I don't know what's going to happen at Survivor Series, though. I mean, yeah, there's always a possibility he could get hurt, but I don't think that he'll retire because of a career-ending injury. I don't think he's going to be doing anything too crazy.
And we'll see what happens. I mean, we talked about maybe Sting when we did the preview and prediction show. So there's a couple things that we can at least watch to see what they do. Right? Sure, when it's all said and done, we might laugh at this whole scenario of what we just watched the last two nights. I'm talking late Sunday night, Monday morning. We could all be laughing or there could be one or two gems that we take away from this like, holy crap. We won't know until it's over.
There's one thing we didn't. Oh, Greg, go ahead. You go first. Go ahead, Greg.
I was going to say, I was thinking about this since we did the predictions on Tuesday. The whole, unholy alliance or unholy trinity or whatever he said. Do you think we're just in our own heads and that they're just going to do absolutely nothing with this? Yeah. And it was just a one-off saying in a promo and we're overthinking it? A lot of me say, we're probably overbooking this in our heads. We're trying to say, hey, this would be cool, but we have to consider the limitations and the fact that Undertaker probably just said whatever the hell he wanted. So I don't think it's going to be much of anything, but maybe we'll be surprised.
All right. Now, we do have a few more super chats here. First one is from TR Sega with a 200 yen super chat. He says, at the panel, what do you admire about Vince McMahon? Well, I admire his balls the size of grapefruits because he will defy what people tell him to do. If somebody tells him he cannot do it, he will say, F you, I can do it. And he'll strut around with those grapefruit balls, whatever you want to call them, and he will turn negatives into positives. So that's what I admire about Vince. Jeff, what do you admire about Vincent Kennedy McMahon?
I honestly admire how much he is willing to bet his own house and bet everything he's got to prove that he's right. He, for all intents and purposes, should have completely gone belly up in '82 when he bought the Capital Wrestling Corporation from his father and Gorilla and everybody. And here we sit 38 years later, and he is the man. So it shouldn't have worked. There were so many things going against him that it shouldn't have worked. But he knew in his heart, he knew in his head that if I do this and I get Hogan and I get this team together, I will kick everybody's ass. And here we are. So.
All right.
And I admire his work ethic, Aaron. He works.
Yes.
He probably only sleeps 3 or 4 hours a day at best. I mean, I heard he works out at 2:00 in the morning. So the only other person that works or thinks about their job as much as Vince McMahon that I know is probably Aaron Rift. I don't know. What I do for a shoot job, my 8 or 9 hours, and then that's it. I don't want to think about it. I want the rest of my day to play video games, talk wrestling, do whatever. So there are very few people that think that work. Not that it's a bad thing. That's a good trait. Workaholic. People say they're bad and stuff. No, I mean our country was built on workaholics.
Oh wow. Okay, so Big G just sent in $50. Thank you, Big G. He says, just a big shout out to everyone. Aaron, if you can, split this with the panel.
Oh, hey.
That's what he's doing. He gave us $50.
I guess we got dinner for the weekend.
Well, his $9.99 for the network, that's how he'll watch Mania, and then he gave us the rest of the $50. That's the full $60 pay-per-view price.
Does that mean I have to give G a spin on Saturday? Is that what that means?
Yeah, you might as well give him a free spin.
Well, we want Big G back on the show when his work schedule permits. He's still part of the crew. He knows that. He promotes us. But that's it. That's all I had. I mean, we covered an hour's worth of topics. Does anybody want to add one more thing heading into this 2-day? Think about this, guys.
Well,
we're going to have WrestleMania, no people in attendance, 2 days, pre-recorded.
We do have a few more super chats here, so let me get to these. Mo Camera sent in a $7 super chat. Mo Camera has arrived. We cannot go one review without him. He says, even though we disagree, I'm a supporter of Aaron, TJS, Jeff, and Greg. I think we know TJS's burner
account Mo Camera is now.
No, we appreciate you, Mo.
I don't know how it can be if he's in Canada. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, right? Well, we do appreciate you, Mo Camera, and I agree with you that there are guys like John Cena and Roman Reigns that have been overpushed, and there were opportunities to change the character up and do something different, and WWE chose not to do it. So on that note, I do agree with you, Mo Camera, to some degree. Now, I want to go back to Mike D, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Mike D. He says, do you guys believe the rumor that CM Punk's agent called WWE to do business and Vince saying he doesn't? I cannot see that. Vince knows that Punk equals big money. Now, my take on it is that I would not admire Vince if he said that CM Punk is worthless, because I think if CM Punk showed up in front of a crowd and did a pipe bomb and challenged the top guy, that would get eyeballs tuned into WWE. Nobody gives a shit about backstage. It was cool for 1 week, but when he didn't show up the second week and he only appears once a month, it's no big deal. We want to see him on Monday Night Raw live with a microphone. That will get people talking. That will bring in eyeballs to the product. So, yeah, you talk about what do I admire about Vince? I admire him not holding grudges. And Vince is a guy who always says if it's good for business, he will bury the hatchet with people. So I don't know if I buy that. I just can't imagine Vince saying, like, there's no way I'll ever work with CM Punk. That's not Vince. He always says, never say never. And that's something that I think is a good lesson to live by. But, Greg, I'm not sure we got your thoughts on Vince and what you admire about him and your thoughts on the CM Punk rumor.
I mean, I admire the fact that he is willing to take on anything, regardless of how big it is, and shove it in their face. He is resilient to a fault. I mean, he freaking beat the U.S. government in the 90s. And who doesn't wish they could say that sometimes, right? It's just amazing. I don't buy the CM Punk rumor either because, like you said, put CM Punk in front of an audience, have Cult of Personality hit, that crowd loses their minds, he shows up on stage, everybody is talking about it. Because we thought that would be something that we would never see again. But then again, we also never thought we'd see Bret Hart in WWE again. We never thought we'd see the Ultimate Warrior back in WWE. That was a little bit of an unfortunate circumstance shortly after, but with Bret, he came back and actually won a championship after his stroke 8 years prior. So never say never, especially with CM Punk. I don't buy that rumor at all.
Yep.
All right. So we do have one more super chat from Psycho Jet Black. He says, do all of you guys have enough toilet paper? I guess now you guys can answer that as we do our plugs. Greg, do you want to start with your plugs?
Sure. And yeah, we're pretty set on toilet paper and pretty much everything else. We did all our shopping before the state got locked down. But Instagram, follow me at PA Sensation, only Instagram. I don't use Twitter anymore. Buy a shirt, Instagram. The link is on my Instagram bio for my Teespring store, teespring.com/stores/ all one word, Keystone Delight. Check out my live stream on this channel Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And yes, Saturday, not Sunday, because I want to do the WrestleMania pre-show. I'm not going to do it Sunday because that's in the middle of WrestleMania, and I quite frankly want to take a Sunday off. So Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, check out the live stream. Big G, with that donation, as long as I get the bit of that money, you'll get a spin. Maybe you can win a shirt. We'll see what happens. And you can message me if I get an entrance or whatever happens. Check out the live stream Saturday. That's mostly why I want to plug is the live stream, because I want to get more people watching that.
All right, Jeff Meacham.
You can follow me on Twitter. Instagram _Jeff Meacham. You can follow, although I haven't done the podcast updates a lot on the either social media, you can follow at J Meach Podcast or at Jeff Meacham Network on Instagram. Teespring.com. We need to do a screen cap for this damn site. I swear to God, Aaron. Teespring.com/store/Jeff-Meacham-Network. You can buy the Meachamania shirts. You can buy Meachamania shirts on NoDQ's site, apparently. So check those out, too. They have a NoDQ logo across the bottom. So, it's up to you what you want to wear. And you can listen to me on anchor.fm/Jeff Meacham Network. And across Spotify, Google, Apple, everywhere else. And tomorrow, Talk Wrestling will be my final thoughts going into the craziest damn weekend in the history of the business.
Yeah. All right, guys. Wait a minute. Mike D with a $2 super chat says, do you think Chris Jericho will ever go into the WWE Hall of Fame? Yes. When he's done with AEW, which I do not see him being in AEW forever, he will go into the WWE Hall of Fame. Thank you very much for that, Mike D. And Curtis Butler again says, we are the 4 Mule Men. All right, guys. So head over to nodq.com/merch. You can pick up nodq.com merchandise, as you can see on the screenshot there. We got all sorts of stuff. And check out Greg and Jeff's stores as well. And I will be doing live coverage of WrestleMania this weekend, both nights, Saturday night, Sunday night. Check it out. Check out Greg's live stream before WrestleMania. And that's all I got, guys. Thank you very much for your continued support. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe and tell a friend. All right, Virtue, let's go ahead and wrap it up.
And of course, you can follow me. You can troll with me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. You can go to my Facebook page where I talk about other things other than wrestling, like video games and movies and stuff, over at NoDQ.com/Virtue. And I do other content on various websites. Go to my Twitter profile because I always promote it over there. But over for Big Vito and Andre Corbeil, I always do stuff for them. So I am Virtue for Jeff Meacham, the West Coast Professor, for the Wrestling Trivia Challenge Champion, Greg Cherry, and for the Boss Man, Aaron Rift. We'll see you next time.